Howdy y'all, Matt Deserker here, your resident Mirage and former Bloodhound hater. Hoping y'all having a good day. But so I have this video clip at the end that'll pretty much sum up why Mirage is terrible. It's what happens when a Mirage throws every trick in the book in plus the kitchen sink and still, comes up short. But I feel the need to post this video because not only have I been having the same argument or discussion for like 4 seasons now, but for some reason, even though he hasn't received a buff recently, a lot of YouTubers are just suddenly spreading this notion that he's suddenly better for no apparent reason. So let's go ahead and get into why Mirage is garbage. So pretty much, long story short, all of his abilities, his passive, tactical, and ultimate, are entirely dependent on the skill level and competency of the opponent. So just like based on that alone, he can never be a good character. So let's pick Mirage here.
I'm back. You miss me?
Of
course you did.
So we'll go ahead and go through and do a quick overview and go over like all the pros and cons of his abilities. So, you got his passive, right? God. So, passive. You,
Frag out! Arcstar out.
Alright, I'm invisible, right? There's not much time to get away. But, say I just started doing this instantly, right? I believe it was, a gaming merchant that he was able to get a revive right here. Obviously the revive is making sound. If you're gonna get a clutch revive like this at like point blank range in the middle of a close range firefight,
You know, let's not
that's
talk about
entirely
this.
dependent on the skill level of your opponents, right? Because obviously getting a revive makes a sound and you're doing the animation. So, but that's pretty much the only specific situation where his passive, I got a lot of stick drift on this controller, that's pretty much the only way where his passive will be useful. Assuming you're like at a long range firefight, right? Say like, what's that, 60 meters? Yep. So say you're like 60 meters out, maybe even farther, right? And you get downed, and then you go invisible or whatever. That's far enough away where your teammate can get a clutch revive, right? It doesn't even have to be clutch, just get a revive. Your passive would have done nothing there because you're too far away for the enemies to capitalize on you getting down, right? I mean, maybe you'll be in a weakened state if your teammate doesn't have a gold backpack by the time they show up. But say you're at a close range firefight, like you're like in a building or something like that. You get down and you go to another place. It's like that doesn't affect anything, especially because if you like down a Mirage, right? Like, bam, Mirage is down. All you gotta do is hold to execute, and then just cancel the finisher. They'll just snap onto them, start the cutscene, and then you just cancel it, and then you just shoot them. You know what I mean? Like, so it doesn't help at close range, and at long range it's useless because you're at long range, so then they can just get the revive. Another con for that would be like, trying to look just to even see if like, oh, yeah, the obvious one, right? You have that dumb passive ability instead of an actual ability that like stops you from getting downed in the first place. Then you got his tactical, right? Sets up the decoy. You can send it out in multiple ways. Why he doesn't have like 2 instead of, like similar to how Bang gets 2 separate cooldowns for her smokes. That would probably help him a lot, but he doesn't have that, so you can do it like that. This does not behave like a player, right? It's obvious. Like, people stop falling for this. I'd say like around season 1. I mean, I guess if they're still falling for this, you could chalk it up to the player-based matchmaking, which is still around. But that's entirely dependent on if an opponent's gonna fall for that, right? Which is the problem. So you can make the argument that, say you do your decoy across an
Setting up my
open field,
decoy.
and you want it, so you know, maybe you don't know if there's enemies out there, and they'll shoot the decoy, and then like, bam, I get the marker right here. There's an enemy up here, right? That's dependent on the enemy, because decoys are pretty obvious. They don't behave like players. They'll just see the decoy, realize it's a decoy, and now they know where me as the Mirage, where my location is. So pretty much, not only did I not gain information about the whereabouts of the enemy, they know where my last location was. And because Mirage has no mobility abilities, right? I'm not going to be that far away from this from the decoy. You know what I mean?
Get the bamboozling.
It's like that, like a Pathfinder can traverse that if it's an open field in the first place, like as the situation. You know what I mean? Like zip line that way, just start doing a long range gunfight, whatever. Like that didn't gain any information. You could also argue, I think one of the best ways I've seen the ability utilized is like if you're about to walk into a door, right? So say the door is like right here, right?
This way.
And it's already open, so that's a prerequisite, right? You send the
Get out
decoy,
there and bamboozle.
and then you slide in and blast like whoever. Like, even still, that's still like dependent on the person, right? They shoot the decoy, because you're right behind it, they'll just start shooting you. So it's honestly no different than if you just walked in and blasted the person. I guess you maybe have that, if they do shoot the decoy, you have that split second to, oh, the person's right here, and then you shoot. But I mean, you're still just going in guns blazing, which is gonna end out however it ends out, right? That's just dependent on the two people's, you and the opponent's skills they're fighting, and you know, all the other random variables. So, tactical.
Sending out my decoy.
That's garbage. That does nothing, right? Then you have his ult, right? The ult is his. Honestly, I think it's like the only thing that's actually good about him. For pros, like that's definitely a really it's a solid disengage, right? You're like, oh shit, this fight's not going the way I want. I'm getting my ass kicked. Let me fucking get the fuck out of here, right? Maybe come back, scoop my teammates' banners. You know what I mean? I feel like if you down their teammates and Mirage's teammates and the Mirage ults, you're like, oh, he's definitely gonna come back for these banners. You know what I mean? So all you gotta do is just wait that out. But it at least lets them survive to then try and make that next play. In addition to that, you could make the argument that say he has a PK or Mastiff, right? And he wants to sneak up on the enemy. You could ult and then you know, reposition yourself.
Using the decoy escape.
Problem is, you have to decloak like that, right? Use the cloak. It still depends on the enemy for even allowing you to get close. Your footsteps don't get muffled, and they're apparent. You can see all the dirt that's being kicked up while you're walking and stuff like that. And then you got to decloak, which makes sound, and then draw your weapon. So say that you manage to sneak all the way up behind this enemy, right? And then you decloak, they still have the chance to turn around and shoot before you even draw your weapon, right? So that's just garbage, honestly. Like so pretty much every 2 minutes about you have a chance to make a good play. That's terrible. Okay. So, oh, also back on decoys real quick. You could make the argument
You got bamboozled.
that
Look at you.
you just pretend to be a decoy and then hope they walk past you. I feel like even still, that's pretty like apparent. Like you do your decoy right here and you just look at a wall. Like, I've seen people do that. It's hilarious when it works. I mean, you know what I mean? But in ranked or even just pubs against like competent people, like that's just not gonna work. So obviously, best case scenario, your opponent has a below room temperature IQ, but then because there's, you know, what's the math? I don't do public math. 57 opponents in a lobby. You'd have to hope for every single person to be terrible, like, just so that you have a, you know, you can be successful. Now, so obviously, this is all talking about the character itself, right? Your individual skills with a weapon, or your movement skills, or like what have you, like your accuracy, your aiming, like all that shit, is dependent on you versus the opponent, right? We're simply talking about the character's abilities. Like, if you're doing good with Mirage, then that would just mean you would be doing better picking an actual good character. So there's that. Let me see if I got any like talking points real quick. Nope, that's pretty much it. Ultimately, so using Mirage, you know what I mean? Like, I guess it's like, say you have, you know, your 59 other people in the lobby, right? And they all have a gun. And every time they press the shoot, this gun works, right? Whether they hit the target or not, that's dependent on individual skill level, right? But playing Mirage is like your gun has a 50% chance that every time you press the fire, the weapon itself will work or not. You know what I mean? So, but on the flip side, the other 50% chance, right, isn't a huge payoff either. It's like, okay, it'll work just as well as everyone else, or it won't work. That's like what using his abilities are like. So, I got this video pretty much that that like sums up all this in motion, right? So, because I can't dub over the video, I'm just gonna go ahead and describe it pretty much before playing the video, just that, just in case y'all would miss something otherwise, right? So pretty much, I'm engaged in a firefight, like roughly 30 to 40. Oops, put my controller down. Roughly 30 to 40 meters away, right, with no cover. It's at the train tunnel between Capitol and train yard, right? Obviously, we're in a firefight, so shooting his decoy wouldn't give him any information that they don't otherwise already have, because it's, you know, 30 to 40 meters is pretty close. It's like,
Let's check out over there.
what is that, 38? Yeah, so we're like that distance, right? So Mirage's decoy, we don't fall for it because it's obviously a decoy, but even if we did shoot it, they wouldn't gain anything, right? Then the enemy Mirage, you know, fighting moves into a tunnel. You see the enemy Mirage do this thing where he runs into the wall and try to pretend to be a decoy. It's obviously a decoy because he just used his decoy, which didn't work, right? Plus you see him getting shot and he really commits to this role, right? So now he's pretending to be a decoy. I shoot him and he's like, ouch, rejoins his team, right? Then he sends out another decoy, which is obviously a decoy because now his cooldown is done. I got a gold helmet on right now, so it's a little bit faster than what it normally would be. Then we go back to the firefight. The Mirage ults. It's obviously an ult because, you know, he's got all his little decoy guys around, and I can literally see his footprints and hear him walking up behind me. Like, I'm so not concerned by this. I'm still just going about trying to get this shot. I was practicing with the Sentinel. It was my first time using it since they buffed it, so I really wanted to have fun with that. So I'm just concentrating on getting the Sentinel shot off. I see the footsteps coming towards me. You can hear the footsteps. They're loud. It's like he's stomping around in, like, gold-plated Timberlands, you know what I mean? And so once I, you know, he gets behind me, I know he's about to decloak, I go ahead, turn around, and I can pretty much pinpoint his exact location just by the sound alone. And then I blast him, you know what I mean? It's like that simple. That's pretty much every trick in the book. Of course, that passive doesn't help him, so, you know what I mean? There's that. But yeah, based on all that, it's just entirely dependent on whether or not your opponent is brain dead. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead, just roll the video. That's a Mirage. Their gold guy is one shot.
Just topping up my shields.
Reloading. I'm spotted, taking fire.
That's a Mirage.
Reloading.
They spotted me. Taking a shot. Reloading. Look out, grenade.
I got the gold guy down.
Took an enemy down. Pretty good for an electrical and
Need to recharge my shields.
Yep. His armor's almost broke. Broke his armor.
1 minute. Ring's pretty close.
I downed an adversary.
Contact with target.
Yeah.
I might be.
I got him. Yeah, so he tried to go invisible, stick him behind me like a dumbass. I literally saw his foot.